Okay, we are going.
We are live.
We are live. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And welcome to BDA Chat, episode 19. Is there something missing?
No.
No, I've not noticed.
Well, those of you watching will see that Mr. Lee Williams is not here today.
Yeah.
Master of Ceremonies, Mr. 2%, is not with us. And sadly, he's been unwell.
Yes.
After his last podcast recording, he has been poorly. So in the timeless words of Queen, the show must go on. So without Lee, we wish you well, but we're going to continue with our podcast.
Absolutely.
That was very professionally done.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to see if anyone would notice watching it. Just notice
You're a
that he's
lot
not
taller
here.
than Lee.
Yeah,
You are
we'll see if I'm better.
Okay, good luck.
Okay,
massively better looking though.
so is everyone okay?
Yeah, we're
Yes.
Is there anything to report from anyone's week? Anything that we want to bring up before we get into the crux, into the meat of what we're talking about today?
I think one thing it should bring up off to
Yes,
the
David.
CIM Chartered Institute of Marketing
Yeah.
Awards tomorrow night,
Oh, yes.
where we are shortlisted for the best use of digital
Digital marketing.
marketing.
Fantastic. And where's
Yeah,
this
fingers
taking place? Is this in London, isn't
This
it?
is in London.
In London,
Park Lane.
Is it Park Lane?
It is
Yes.
Park Lane.
Oh well.
So
very
yeah, fingers
exciting.
crossed. That'll
Fingers
be good.
crossed.
There's a few of us going along.
Yes.
So we'll be reporting on social media and just seeing, well, hopefully we'll take a walk home.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
And the project in question is a great web project.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Very much user experience focused, I
Mhm,
believe.
mhm.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was really good.
I'm talking like I don't know anything about it, even though I was
You know a
very
lot
much-
about it.
Even though I was very much involved.
You really were. And it was shortlisted for a number of other awards as well
Yes,
throughout
yeah.
the year, hasn't it?
Yeah, and this one, I've got a good feeling.
Good.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Fingers crossed
Be
it was
nice,
good.
nice to bring home a gong.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, I think after last week's one, where Lee spoke about video, very engaging, very interesting, there was a side point that came up kind of in the news.
Yes, there was.
And it was, for the audience who didn't watch last week or haven't heard this, it was the Coca-Cola Open Briefs. So we thought, oops,
Awesome.
I think
we've
it's
knocked down
falling
the
apart.
sign. So yeah, we thought, I'm just going to go
Good
on.
announcement.
I would just carry on.
Go on.
So we thought, again, we're going to go back over it and what this is, but we thought it would be a good opportunity today to kind of discuss crowdsourcing creative briefs.
Yes.
And that's the main topics today. So to kind of kickstart us,
Yeah.
for those of our viewers and listeners who haven't heard it, heard what we were talking about last week, can someone give us a little bit of an overview of what it was that kind of triggered this, and for us to focus on it in more detail today? David?
Me. Okay. So what this was so Coca-Cola in conjunction with Adobe have thrown out a brief to essentially the general public with the purpose of this brief is to come up with a piece of creative using certain Coca-Cola assets and using Adobe's Creative Cloud tools to promote basically an Olympics special event or something like that,
I think it was an
special
event.
category, something like that, in 2020 in Tokyo. And so so this has been thrown out to the general public. They're not using an agency to do it,
Okay.
and essentially they're crowdsourcing creativity.
From across the globe.
Yeah.
So explain the Adobe element here again. So Coca-Cola, the only constraint is that you have to
You have to use Adobe products.
You have to use Adobe Creative
Cloud
Cloud
products, yeah.
products to produce whatever it
And
is. So
there'll
that's
be,
Photoshop
you need to use
or
the red and the white. There's
Yeah.
other stipulations that you have to abide by as part of
Yes.
the brief.
yes. So obviously, as a concept, great concept
Yep.
for Coca-Cola. They get a whole load of people to come up with a whole load of ideas for them for free. And whilst doing that, create a whole load of publicity for them, because all of this stuff is shared on social
Yeah,
media. They don't put any
completely.
restraints on how you actually restraints on you sharing it. You don't have to submit it blindly so that the world doesn't see. You can share it and you put it on Instagram. You can go on Instagram. You go to and we'll put a link in the descriptive comments. The Adobe and Coke website, where all of the images are displayed, so you can go and see what's been put together. And there's a huge
got over
amount
like
of time.
2,000 or something like
A
that.
huge
so
number.
far.
Well, that's the
Huge,
thing, isn't it?
huge
It's
number.
Coca-Cola. It's going to get one hell of
but
a response.
they're only putting out short briefs
Yeah.
to the public, crowdsourcing. So it's only short design briefs, so really quick pieces. They're still going to use their creative partnerships, so their agencies.
Okay.
It's not everything. It's just for these little tidbits. So
potentially the general public could come up with that killer idea, that
Yeah.
amazing idea, which then
And
they're
that's
going to
the beauty of
realistically
it.
take to their creative agency.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
no, they
But-
won't take it to the creative agency. That's it. It's done in its entirety. Like the bigger campaigns will be done by their agency partners. But this is kind of, you've designed it. It's designed. It's done. They've got hundreds and thousands to choose from, thousands or whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, and obviously, if you have that many, you've got to go through a lot to find those really good ones. But it's a great piece of marketing for Coca-Cola.
And a great piece of marketing potentially for Adobe.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they
Yeah, a
announced
great
it at their
partnership.
summit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great partnership. But obviously, for a company like ours, it creates questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you throw that out to the general public, how far could that go? Is it possible to do it on a wider scale for more companies to do that? And I think that's a really interesting debate, really. Is it something that could go a bit wider than just a massive FMCG brand that's known worldwide like Coca-Cola?
Yeah. I think it's quite exciting. And
Yeah,
I think,
what's your opinion on this? Come on.
well, my opinion is, I know that people like Doritos have been doing it for years. So they have, is it the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Where people do short clips, they're video clips that they submit. So Doritos, I mean, we're talking like a decade Doritos have been doing it for. I think NASA do some stuff as well. NASA do stuff. So I jotted it down somewhere. Like complex innovation problems, NASA put out to crowdsourcing, which is awesome. So they're, again, getting over other people's thoughts and ideas. And then they've got Coca-Cola China did it already. So they asked people, produce a video of the taste of Coca-Cola. What is that to you? So that's lovely. That's a really nice piece of crowdsourcing content.
Yeah.
So people have been doing it for such a long time and dabbling with it. But I do think, and I think it's clever too, look at some agencies, for example, who welcome crowdsourcing in. I looked at the psychology of crowdsourcing. So if you're in a crowd, you are not, you have no structure around you. You're doing it because you want to do it and because you enjoy the creative process because it's fun.
Yeah.
And that's why you're doing it. If you're in an agency, you have your roles and responsibilities, you have a bit of red tape, you are slightly bound. So it's the psychology of being creative is more adapted to the crowd rather than some time restraints, budget restraints. You're kind of knocking all that away.
Yeah.
So if you've got an agency and a bit of crowdsourcing together, say you had an agency that had a hub, like an innovation hub, like BDA Beta, whatever. If you had part of that as just part of that section, that industry that you're looking after, that's not making sense, but part of that innovation hub to actually crowdsource to get ideas, and then that touch of agency to make them great.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's like the magic
It is.
formula, isn't it?
It is. It's like you're taking away those constraints, those boundaries, and you're giving, it's untethering creativity. It's unleashing it. Because you're right. Those constraints aren't there. We're not thinking on the budget. We're not thinking. So these ideas could be broad. It could be anything from the most simplistic idea to something so out there that you would never cross it in a million years.
And you will be risky because what have you got to lose? You're part of the crowd. You could produce anything. You don't care. That's kind of out the window. You just want to do something really creative.
Yeah.
So you see it as a good thing?
I see it as a really good thing. I see it as quite exciting thing. And I think those agencies with their fingers on the pulse will start to move slightly in that direction. I think, personally. I just think it's a bit of innovation and it's a different way of thinking about things and approaching briefs.
Yeah. But is there not... But then from our perspective, you look at that.
Yeah.
And any agency, you spend a lot of money employing really creative, talented people. You train them. You work with businesses so that you understand their strategy, what they're trying to do, what their objectives are. And then you go away and you create some creative for it. Okay? And there's tremendous value in what you've created.
Absolutely.
In doing this, though, are you not saying, well, actually, the creative bit, what's the value in that? Because we'll just get a load of people submitting a load of ideas for nothing, spending thousands of hours, hundreds of people. Brilliant for me, if I'm Coca-Cola. But for agencies out there, they're going, whoa, hold on, where's the value in what we do?
But then there's the point that these are small, like the Coca-Cola example. They're opening, they're short design briefs. They're quite small. They're not big campaigns. They still need their partner agencies because they understand their company more. They get all those important things that agencies need to understand. It's almost like if you had a merger of the two, then that's perfect. But one on its own is not robust enough, as in not the agency, the crowd is not robust enough potentially to come up with that, because you haven't got the knowledge and the expertise that the agency have, because that's all we live and breathe on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's an interesting argument. I can see it from both sides.
Do you think it could work, given that, Coke, buying a bottle of Coke is not going to cost you a lot of money?
Yeah.
So actually the risk from a consumer's point of view, or indeed from Coke's point of view, there is a risk. There's always a risk attached to this. But the actual cost, the instantaneousness of a purchase based upon the creative that you've seen that somebody has produced is there and now. Could a larger car company, for example, could they use something like this, do you think? Is it possible?
Yeah.
It's just another way of looking at it, because that's a considered purchase where there's a much more, there's a massive impact on your life.
Yeah.
Buying a bottle of Coke
is nothing.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Do you know what? This is a slightly different proposition, but it's this sort of crowdsourcing, particularly in social media, where you're asking people to hashtag and whatever. I think Lidl did it a while ago, where again it's not the same as this, not a creative brief, but they said they sent it out there, they put it out to all their customers and said, look, can you hashtag Lidl stories, they're called.
Oh yeah.
And they were literally asking them to hashtag a story about Lidl.
That was really clever at the time.
But it backfired. It backfired because it was complete freedom, and suddenly this microsite was populated with people having a dig at Lidl.
It's like the McDonald's
about
stories
the meat
as
being
well.
found from roadkill, etc., and all of that. And it just spiraled out of control. Slightly different, but again, it's that crowdsourcing mentality. Can work. It can be free content. It can be free ideas, but at the same time, it needs that control. And I think in this is where agencies still have a big part to play if a brand is using that. Yeah. Because you're completely right. There's small ideas, there's little bits of creative. That's fine, that can come. But you still need that business-minded creativity, commercial awareness element to steer this to where it needs to be. Yeah. So I think it is an entirely interesting concept.
And I think if you were a designer of some sort, or you wanted to get into the design industry, what a great opportunity just to have a crack at something. Oh my God.
Because you'd never normally have a crack at that. You'd never have the opportunity to do that, ever. To work for, design something for Coke.
The kudos, look what I've done. I've got to do this. Okay, it may or may not be chosen, but at least I've done it. And if yours is the chosen one out of all of this hundreds, thousands that get submitted, which that is another question. How do they select the one they want?
Yeah. How many man hours is taken to weave through the hundreds and thousands of videos?
Exactly. But if you were that chosen one, it would be, look what I'm the feather in your cap. Certainly if you were looking for a job, to go to an agent and say, look, it was mine that was chosen would be...
Oh, yeah.
The kudos would be fantastic. And the competition and the challenge, we all like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I can see a place for it.
I think it's almost... If agencies embrace crowdsourcing, it's not saying, let's take over what agencies are doing. It's just embracing that so that you can cut through some of the advertising clutter that's currently out there, because you're actually hearing from it from a consumer point of view and perspective. It's an interesting take on it, because I'm a strong believer in mixing up the pot and kind of making things a bit new and a bit different.
Yeah, of course. And I agree in that way as well. I think there's a place for it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's understanding that place and leveraging the opportunity of that place and how you use it to what degree, I think.
Yeah, and I think it almost goes, when you look at some of the other changes that have happened in the creative and the marketing industry, when the web became a thing, and it's like that's the end of the printed word and all of that stuff. Yeah. Has that happened? No. Is it going to happen? No. It's not. They will work hand in hand with one another, and they will actually support and improve the other, won't they?
Yeah. No, I think there's some really good points here. I think we're seeing it, from both sides of this.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that kind of stands out for me, that creativity unleashed, is like we were talking about the Chip Shop Awards the other week, and it was kind of similar for agencies or people who weren't agencies. It's creatives to go.
And it's fun.
No holds barred, no brief. You can come up with a design, a marketing campaign, a product, anything you want, and you're going to submit it. And again, it's amazing without those constraints, the ideas that can come back.
Yeah.
Completely all ends of the spectrum.
But I think also, again, just a counterpoint to that, sometimes I think
It's
you
very
need...
argumentative today.
No, I think I know where
It's
you're
a
going to
good
go with this,
debate.
David.
I think sometimes you need those restraints,
Yeah.
that cage, in order for you to be more creative sometimes. Because
Ooh,
actually,
controversial.
Because actually, if your budget is only that, how can you make that work harder for you? You know, the money that you do have.
His
you
face,
got,
go into it, he is.
Yeah.
You know? Because the brand...
I like this, David.
doesn't allow you to be completely out there. What can you do?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, that's the joy of creativity.
Yeah.
And because the chip shop stuff is brilliant,
Yeah,
but
and-
actually, in some ways, it makes it harder.
It makes it harder. No, and totally. You know.
There's that 1 minute briefs as well on Twitter. That's great. So they put a little brief out. You've got 1 minute to answer
Who
it.
does?
This company, 1 minute briefs.
Okay.
Yeah. So just at 1 minute brief or briefs on Twitter, and that's great, and it's a bit of fun. And they put out these briefs, and you have 1 minute to reply or put something together and send it back. It's quite fun.
Absolutely.
So lots of those kind of
Yeah,
things. I think we should add some examples to description,
Yeah,
like the
I think
NASA and
so.
the
I think
we
Dorito, and
can,
for
yeah.
people to have a look through.
Yeah.
Oh,
And do you know what? I know, again, I know we've got to wrap this up soon,
Yes.
but again, I think one of the things for me is like the BBC website. It's slightly different, but since 2016, it's been in a constant state of beta, where they're literally A/B testing. They have a beta site they direct you to. You can take part in slight tweaks to the layout or new ideas that they're putting in there, but then they're collecting that user feedback and shaping their site from it. So it's not the complete no holds barred, go out there and come up with an idea. It's controlled to try and kind of put that back in the user's hands and understand what they think to things before you make your decisions. And you'll see if you go to BBC Now, there's an option somewhere on that page where you can go on the beta version. It doesn't look that much different. There's subtleties.
Yeah.
And again, they're constantly collecting feedback to make decisions. So again, not the same as this, but an example of where crowdsourcing or user feedback. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to this?
How are you going to wrap this up?
Because I think we could carry on, but
Yeah.
We could carry
It's a
on.
big
It's
topic.
a great topic, and it's great.
It'd be good to know
some-
everybody's thoughts, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I think the other thing I'd like to say is obviously it's the next episode is episode 20, and we would like you to get in touch on social media and decide what we
let's
talk about.
crowdsource.
Let's crowdsource. Just if you've got something to say, tell us what you would like us to talk about on this, and usual channels at ThinkBDA across Instagram, Twitter,
LinkedIn.
and LinkedIn.
Lovely.
Okay.
Super.
How are you going to end it?
Well-
You can't-
David seems very buoyant and he's full of energy. So
Go on.
I think it's, without Lee here, I'm going to kind of fly the flag for him. And I think, David, it's time for your word of the day.
Week.
Word of the
Or
week.
the week.
Oh, goodness me. My word of the week is...
It's got to do with this.
Ooh.
Yeah, make it harder.
2 words? No.
Gods.
Creative. Just creative then.
Creative.
Or be creativity. No, I didn't do it. Creativity.
Creativity.
Creativity. So David has a problem with just the one word, but creativity, and I
That's
think that's a
good.
really good way. Whether it's internal business ideas, agency ideas, or the general public or your users, creativity is key. Look in all these different places for it, people. That's it for this week.
Thank you very much.
David,
you.
goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Camilla, goodbye.
Bye.
Lee, see you next week.